On the scene. Gwyn, what can you tell us?
Well, Daryl, we can tell you the SWAT team has been very busy out here tonight since about 8:15 when this call came out. We are near the corner of Avenue E and Fillmore, and we apologize due to police requests. We're not going to be able to get you any closer to the house that they are dealing with this evening for safety. They do say there is a man armed with what they believe is a long gun inside that home, and that up until this point he has refused to come out. I'm going to step out of the way here so that you can see the few SWAT members who are still gathered. FBI officials say these latest arrests are part of Operation Flat Rate that all started with 30 arrests down in Dallas. That led to this investigation, and authorities say they will not let up the pressure. Assault with a deadly weapon call here at the Plantation Apartments. We're at the corner of 12th and Austin in downtown Wichita Falls. You can still see behind me they are still processing the scene here.
Let's go ahead and start with Gwyn at the federal courthouse.
That's right, Daryl. Federal prosecutors say as of today, 2 major drug trafficking rings based out of Texoma that reached into all parts of the state are no more. Wichita Falls police are asking anyone in this area to stay in their homes. Daryl, that's about the latest we know. We will continue to bring developments to everyone at home on TexomasHomepage.com.
One hidden impact of the opioid crisis. More grandparents are having to raise their children's children.
Daryl, I'm sure you've noticed he's really trying to keep us on our toes
He
today.
really is. The trivia's back.
The trivia is back.
Did we set a record high today?
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a simple
Okay,
yes or no.
I'm going with no.
Going with no.
Yes.
I'm also going with no.
She's staring into my eyes looking for the answer.
You do have a tail.
They are already on to me thanks to you telling on me.
It's actually kind of scary.
Looking over your shoulder and in the
We
eye.
did not set a record. We're 1 degree away. But we're going to be in
close.
record
Yes.
territory here through the rest
There
of
we
the
go.
week.
Did you check out the meme?
God.
Okay, I'll just tell you.
Yeah, just break it to us. I forgot to look
you
too.
said there was something on your Facebook
Yes.
page.
About how hot it's going
Yes,
to be.
over at Gwyn Bevel, it is basically a fan melting, and it says tomorrow's forecast. And some lady came back and said, you know, this is why we can only have metal fans in Texas. That's pretty good.
That's good.
The folks have
That
been
is
cracking
good.
me up with their
Yeah.
memes back. There was an ice cream truck
I
melting.
forgot.
That one was good.
That I've seen. That's funny. Yeah, that's good.
Interesting, yeah.
Yes, very much so. You can try on the sunglasses before you ever purchase them, right? How do
See
I look
exactly
at
how
these?
it's going to look.
There you go. Noon.
Sounds like they're going to be pulling an all-nighter.
It sounds like it's going to be a pretty busy night for the
Yeah.
folks in Iowa Park, but how exciting is that for them?
A lot of people are going to be very impressed with that for sure.
Yes, they're also looking for sponsorships for their kennels, so you can check that out over on our website. He served his country in World War II, became a husband and father, but before that, Bill Thacker became a Boy Scout. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Gwyn Bevel. Oklahomans will head to the polls in less than 2 weeks to vote on legalizing marijuana for medicinal purposes. South of the border, the bathroom bill fizzled after the last legislative session, and it hasn't been a key talking point for this year's elections. Now it's top of mind for some Republicans at the Texas GOP convention. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick says though the party didn't get its wishes, it still succeeded. With the announcement from Wichita Falls District 3 City Councilor Brian Hooker that he will not seek re-election, 3 candidates have already put their name in the mix to take that seat. For more than 30 years, members of the Wichita Falls sorority have dedicated their time to give back to the community in any way they can. Katia Guillaume spoke to some of the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha today as they were out setting up for tomorrow's big fundraising pancake breakfast. And if folks head out bright and early in the morning, they get to see your smiling face, right, Katia?
I'll be there.
You are part of that sorority,
I am.
which is very special. We appreciate everything y'all do in the community. All right. Well, fans of Western Swing are in Wichita Falls right now, kicking up their boots and having a fun time down at the Impact. The Legends of Western Swing Festival, now in its 31st year, was started to honor the legacy of Western Swing musician Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. Gloria Myers and her last husband, Dewey, started the festival in Canton, then moved it to Snyder, and then brought it here to Wichita Falls 18 years ago. Myers says people not only from Texoma, but even as far as London and Tokyo come to this festival. But ironically, Myers, now 92 years young, wasn't always a fan of the now official state music of Texas. She is a hoot. She'd be worth the price of a ticket just to meet her and shake her hand. The festival continues tomorrow from 11 until 11. Well, the Wichita Falls Area Food Bank is running low on volunteers and donations. Jaron Sport was there today, and Jaron, what's causing the big shortage? All right, Jaron, I hope a lot of folks step up and help out. Well, as part of the 81st Shriners Oil Bowl festivities, a very special guest made his way to Texoma. Alec Kabakanyan says that Shriners are like family to him. He's been active with the organization since he was just 2 years old. Alec has osteogenesis imperfecta, also known as brittle bone disease, and has already broken 60 bones. His condition is certainly not slowing him down, though, as he's already graced the court during an NBA game. Alec says Shriners have been there to help him with surgeries and rehabilitation. He says he can never thank them enough. Well, every year, each Next Star station spends the anniversary of our parent company volunteering in the community. Today, Derek Lowe followed the KFDX family out and about as they volunteered, and he has more. Today, I volunteered with a group at the Central Boys and Girls Club, and as you can see from the photo right there on your screen, I placed second in our very intense paper airplane contest. In first place, our Creative Services Director, Alec Madsen. In third, the producer of this very show, the great Dewey Cooper. And coming in with the participation trophy, if you want to call it that, Josh Alvarez from our Creative Services Department. Now, through building paper airplanes, kiddos at the club can learn about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, as well as problem solving. And for your viewing pleasure, I brought the second place winning airplane. I mean, look at this design. It's one heck of a design here. There you go. You can take a look at it. Let's see if it'll fly. It does still fly. Well, there's a big release at the box office this weekend. Coming up right after weather, we're going to take you to the theater to see what's new and what's making waves. And in What the Tech, an app that will help you calm down. Stay with us. When you see how far Chloe's come, it proves the fight in this little girl is big.
I'm gonna have a camp.
Chloe is just 9 years old, and in her short life, she's already been through so much.
Trying to run, trying to do things that I never done before.
The journey all started 2 years ago.
When you walk into a doctor's office being told your child has scoliosis and just needs a brace, to be told to look on the screen and see a tumor that starts at her brainstem and goes all the way down to her lumbar of her spine.
And once that devastating diagnosis came,
They did a surgery to try to remove it, where they took out the entire back of her spine and tried to remove it to find out it was non-removable. So they put her spine back together with plates and screws.
the surgery caused Chloe to lose control of one side of her body.
This is that right one.
One step at a time, she learned to walk again and is now on to running.
She's like, no, you're not stopping me.
She's been through countless rounds of chemo, documenting each one with a cheerful sign and super strength. Her oncologist said even through all the treatments, the tumor would not shrink, but that the chemo may be able to stop it from growing.
A little bit of hope was better than them telling us there's no hope.
And that's why shortly after the chemo started, her parents also chose alternative medications. And miraculously, in just 3 months, the tumor was shrinking, and 1 year later, there was only a small amount left in her neck.
And she's taken it in stride like it's just no big deal. It's another day. I've got this.
She's also got an amazing support system of family and friends rallying around her.
Hi.
Without them, this wouldn't be possible. We couldn't afford her medication. We were struggling. But because of all of them, we are making it, and she's a miracle.
Keep on trying until I do it. That's how I get stronger.
A life lesson many could learn from, straight from a little girl who knows what it's like to fight for life.
Chloe will continue to have an MRI every 3 months just to monitor that place in her neck. You can meet the all-inspiring Chloe at the first and final stop on the Cruisin' for Chloe Fun Run tomorrow. She'll also be at the Family Fun Day slated for Sunday. You can find all the details, and they've got a lot of fun stuff planned to help this sweet family. You can find all of that over at Texoma's homepage.com. 115 people die each and every day due to overdoses, far more than die in traffic accidents. Tonight, one man is sharing his journey so that others will see it is never too late to turn your life around.
Right.
Randy was just 11 when he took his first sip of whiskey.
I remember how it burned and how it warmed my belly, but then I remembered that fear was kind of subsided. You know, I didn't really have that fear.
And with each drink and drug, the fear subsided more and more, and soon was no concern at all. He was introduced to treatment facilities at a very early age and was going in and out of juvenile facilities. Alcohol and drug abuse soon became a way of life for Randy and his wife, until they were fighting the battle alone without each other's support. And with his wife in a coma in a hospital, Randy was left in charge of their sons.
When I left, I went and picked up our 2 young boys, and they were 3 and 2 at the time. And before I went and picked them up, I went and got loaded. I mean, because that's what I do. I went and got really intoxicated, and I went and picked them up, and before I got home, I totaled the car on a parked Suburban, and so that's what I do. That I had to do something different. I had to do something different.
The changes he made likely saved his life. But many of those who get addicted to opiates find out too late the risk they pose. According to data from the National Institute on Drug Abuse, 29 people lost their lives to overdoses in Texas in '99. That number jumped to 1,375 people in 2016. Just the year before that, 15.9 million opiate prescriptions were written by doctors in Texas.
So this is my technician's office. Most of the testing would probably happen in here.
Licensed clinical psychologist Dr. Timothy Nyberg often evaluates people who have substance-related concerns.
For the vast majority of people, probably their initial exposure to some sort of an opiate agent, right, was through a legitimate medical complaint.
He says opiates have been commonly prescribed for pain for 30 years. In the 90s, fears doctors had long held of the addiction power of painkillers subsided, with a new study that argued the risk was not high for patients with no history of prior addiction. So prescriptions started flowing, landing in the hands of not just patients, but also family members and friends, and out on the streets. But with a spike in deaths from overdoses in the last decade, the CDC has been trying to fund research for more effective treatment programs.
That doesn't really impact your kind of boots on the ground, your treatment staff, at least not presently. Having said that, in the medical community, I know that there is just a greater degree of consciousness that when somebody comes in the door who has a pain complaint, right, that there's kind of a red flag that gets associated with that.
And after years of fairly common and routine prescribing of opiates for pain, Dr. Nyberg says when doctors began having concerns and more restrictions were put in place, it put people using the painkillers legally in a tough spot. Dr. Nyberg says a third of the population is now suffering chronic pain, so use or request for opiates remains high.
Here in Wichita Falls, I think, or I sense that there's just been a greater collaboration between the folks who are doing primary care and the kind of the gatekeepers for treatment, and then members of the peripheral mental health and medical community, right, to provide kind of support in all the vectors that contribute to substance abuse and prevention.
And that team effort is necessary since opioid addiction has no boundaries.
How you doing?
How are you?
Good. Everything going all right?
Yeah.
Wichita Falls Police Sergeant Charlie Eiper is a familiar face at Ryder High School.
As a resource officer over the years, that where we see kids come to school with pills they have found or they have taken from family members that they have no idea what they're for, and then they come and either give them to somebody to take or they take them.
And while Sergeant Eiper says the consequences can be deadly, he sees signs the peak has been reached. He says over the last 5 years or so, they've seen a decrease in reports and arrests associated with opioids and students.
Maybe there is some hope that the kids are actually seeing enough ambulances showing up to schools and picking up kids where they've heard the stories that maybe that's not something we need to be doing.
Sergeant Eiper says many of the overdoses among youth could be prevented with a simple rule for all parents. Lock up all medications and document exactly how many pills are in each bottle. He says you're not just looking out for the safety of your own children, but also their friends.
Started with whiskey.
Randy says it was a friend of his brother who offered up that first sip of whiskey so many years ago, taken from the boy's parents' liquor cabinet. After 24 years of using every chemical he could get his hands on, Randy says he exchanged that fear for faith and is grateful he can still call the shots for his 2 young sons from the sidelines.
I coach my son's soccer teams nowadays and stuff, and it's just, you know, I just keep going, you know.
And Randy will soon have a personal victory to celebrate too. The beginning of July will mark 7 years of sobriety.
And the bag I talked about getting the best of me, empty. No A-frames today, right? Yeah.
Got to be very gentle.
Am I in the hole? Ooh.
You were.
We know that I should stick to my job. Let Mike do his.
Right.
That is what we have learned here today.